Hey everyone, super excited for this episode. I've got Mr. Udi Cohen, co-founder and CEO of Vendict, a high-flying startup that has been featured on Forbes, on MSN, on Digital Journal. You guys have been featured on many heavy and leading media publications. How are you doing today?
Doing fine. Thank you.
Yes, I was actually pretty excited for this conversation. It took a few weeks to arrange it. You're a busy person, but I think it's an important one. Why do I think it's an important one? I think it's an important conversation because we are in a place. Obviously, there was the Israel-Gaza war. There's been so many talks about the current climate in tech and startups, and you guys are very central to the Israeli ecosystem. You guys have very prominent backing by NFX, which is probably the largest backer, this seed backer in Israel and in the United States. Tell me a little bit. Let's start with this. Tell me a little bit about how that investment came through with NFX. How did that relationship?
Yeah. So they are expert in network effect, and our story is a lot about network effect because we are solving the same problem for both the technology buyers and the technology sellers. I will speak more about it later, but they are very much into that. And also they are looked for the right teams to do generative AI for real. As you know, everyone speak about generative AI. Every startup in every deck say, yeah, generative AI, LLMs. But we are a team of the founding team and the first employees are all either AI expertise or GRC expert, which is the domain we are targeting. So even before the boom of generative AI, we were very much focused in this use case, AI first company for the GRC, governance, risk and compliance industry.
What does it mean you just mentioned, generative AI for real? What does that mean? There is, and I'll put my 2 cents on this. We're seeing lots of startups since the, Gen AI boom that have basically integrated ChatGPT into their solutions, and they're calling themselves an AI company, which, me and my friends and almost everyone that we consult with, this is not an AI company. If you have an existing product and you just add an element of AI, it doesn't make you an AI company. If you add ChatGPT or OpenAI's integration into your product, then you pivot the product into an AI product, you're still not an AI company. You didn't create the AI. You're leveraging someone else's infrastructure to do so. So how do you think you guys are different in that retrospect?
Yeah, so first of all, the first tip I would like to give, if you want to see whether a company is really AI first and working hard on their own AI, is to look for data scientists. Do they have data scientists in the company or not? In our case, both me and my co-founder are data scientists, and we hired we have more data scientists than software developers. Okay, so
you're in an AI company, yes.
Yeah, and you can also see it in the product. If the product, think about, for example, Siri. Okay, it's not just that they are saying, okay, let's take the regular operating system of iPhone and just add the voice understanding. Okay, so because if it was this way, you would start by saying, take me to the navigation application, take me to the search. Now look for my home, now navigate. But you are not doing that, right? You don't say, I open the navigation. You just say, Siri, take me home. Siri, I want to buy this and that, right? And the interface itself is different. It's typically more simple, more intuitive. And this is also what we are doing. It's not solving the same problem in the same way in a little bit better technology. It's solving a problem that until now was not solvable. It was just a lie. The TPRM word, third-party risk management, was like CISO, security officers and governance, risk and compliance, GRC, risk managers, they all knew that they are saying, yes, we do it, but
they weren't doing that.
Yeah, because if you think about a large company, they have thousands of third parties. in order to really analyze the risk from each third party, like assessing their own risk. So let's say if they have 20 security employees to assess their own, you have 1,000 third parties, you need 20,000 security for people for just assessing the third party.
That's not doable.
Yeah, they will probably have one. If they have 20 to assess their own, they will have 1 or 2 people to assess all of their third parties. So of course it's not doable. But on the other end, you cannot just ignore any innovation, right? You do need to work with technology vendor. So companies today, they either compromise on or need to prioritize between absorbing innovation and develop new tools, working with more third parties, etc., or to save, to be to manage the risk. So you can see some companies that just don't have innovation. I spoke with the head of security of a large bank, and he told me, I know that we are dying slowly, and everyone knows that. But we cannot just work with AI, for example. We cannot work with new technology vendors. So we just keep being inefficient, and we know that there will be other type of banks that are born in the cloud that will win us someday. And other companies, they just say, no, we cannot, we need to innovate. But then they take the risk that one of their third parties is not saying what they are doing, what they are saying they're doing, and they can pay $1 billion fine because this third party had the data breach and lose some of their third party customers' personal information.
That is insane. First, it's pretty insane that a company already knows that they're not innovating enough and they don't do anything about it just because. It's not just because, but because of the compliance and the risk associated with that. So that's one. Because they already know. It's not like they're doing some guesswork to understand why they're not innovating. They know the exact reason, and they're basically looking for the solution. And then the second thing is, and we had this conversation earlier, I think a few months ago when I came to visit your office. I didn't know how complex that world is of compliance. Because, and if you can kind of illustrate this to the audience, this is not only about making sure that the party that you're in contact, the first party, third party that you're in contact with is secured enough. It's that their own third party, partners are also secure, which means that the third party partners of their third party partners, it's this whole tree.
Yeah, this is right. And this is something that today it's like completely ignored. As you say, there is one thing to assess the third parties, but there are also the fourth parties and the entire technology supply chain. And this is where it's become really non-feasible, right? Even if you hire those 20,000 employees, at the end you will need to assess every tech vendor in the world and make sure that they meet all the regulation that you need to meet. Right? Because you are an healthcare company. In other companies, it's like finance. So each company needs to assess different stuff. So this is why it's the only way to solve it for real is to use a generative AI that can actually master this technology, this language, the language of security compliance, which is a very complex language. It's a combination of security. You need to understand security, you need to understand technology, but also compliance, legal, finance even. It's like very difficult language to master. And at the end, today, when it's done manually, it's done by very important people in the organization. Those people that can really bridge the gap between the technology and the legal and the compliance.
Are we talking about CISOs in foremost?
So it's sometimes it's the CISO. In other cases, it will be in the risk management office. In some cases, it's like a team, multidisciplinary team that need to work on that. And this is a problem for the technology buyer and the technology seller. And at the end, when you take AI, and today everyone knows the capability of AI, right? Everyone tried ChatGPT and other tools. So the technology is there. What we are doing is to add the surrounding technology to enable the full pipeline, so that it will not be just calling LLM. But for example, one of the important things we are doing is to, once we get the documents of a company, it can be audit reports, policies, evidence, security questionnaires they filled out in the past. We can take all of this information and instantly understand the risk posture and the risk program of this company. So this is like, this is completely around our own AI pipeline. And the goal, I think, for this is also a recommendation for any founder of AI company. You need to look for you need to think about the problem you want to solve, then to think about the ideal solution, and then see whether the solution is it all AI, is it all LLM, is it all proprietary AI, is it something in the middle. Try to think about the best approach after you understand how it should look like. And you should be able to develop the missing parts in the pipeline in order to bring real value and to have a real moat.
How does the business model look like for you guys? Do you guys, I imagine there's several ways you guys can take this. If it's long, project based, where basically a company signs you guys for a period of time to handle all that, compliance and third party validation. And then there's also the aspect of the marketplace that you guys are building. So basically, there's also the people who want to get checked and the people who are checking. So if you can talk a little bit about that business model, that can be wonderful.
Yes. At the end, if we think again about this problem, it's painful for both the technology buyer and the technology seller. We spoke so far mainly on the technology buyer that need to choose between innovation and risk management, but there is also the technology seller. Now there are 65, I read something interesting, 65% of the technology provider company.
The providers.
The providers, 65% of them speak about security compliance as a major growth barrier.
Because people they're not able to vet them properly.
Yeah, they also need to be able to respond, for example, to respond to questionnaires, but also to pass audits. Like SOC 2 is like the minimum today, but if you want to get to the healthcare, then there is the HIPAA. If you want to sell to federal, it's FedRAMP. So there are different gates to different markets. And some companies will send you 1,500 questionnaire. And most companies cannot deal with that. They just say, okay, we lose anyway to a more mature company. So we are helping both sides. We are helping the technology seller to respond to the most complicated questionnaires like in a day, and to pass the most difficult audits. Like instead of spending a year, you can do it in a month. So this is how we help the seller, but we also help the buyer to analyze the third party much faster, much better, and also independently of the technology seller. So at the end, we are adding the value to both, and it's enough that one of them, either the buyer or the seller, use Vendict for both of them to get the value. So this is like, if we speak a little bit about the business model, it gives us motivation to help companies, and it allows us to give more competitive prices, because at the end we have this network effect of when the seller is using Vendict, the buyer have a better experience. They know that it is because of Vendict, and they see the value of Vendict, and also the other way around. For example, if you are a technology seller, there are some companies, banks, automotive companies, that you know that if you get a questionnaire from them, it will take you months over month of manual work. So if now you suddenly get a questionnaire via Vendict platform and you do it in 2 days.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because Vendict take the information you already have and just auto-complete the questionnaire based on that. So now you know what Vendict can do for you. And it gives us the opportunity to also suggest Vendict to this technology seller in this use case. This is why we allow ourselves lower pricing, because we know that this is also a way for us to get to more customers.
In terms of the pricing model, is it a monthly subscription kind of thing, or what's the payment processing look like?
Yeah, it's an yearly subscription based on the number of vendors, the number of customers, etc.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, we talked about network effect earlier in the conversation when we mentioned effects, and then obviously we talked about the network effect right now. And I just want to explain to the audience a bit to kind of expand what that means, right? What does the network effect mean? So if you are thinking about companies like Uber, for example, I think Uber is a fantastic brand to talk about its network effect. It serves both the people who use Uber instead of as a part-time job, or as a full-time job, right? Driving people around. And Uber also serves people who need rides, right? So this creates a loop of network effect where basically you have the users and the people who basically run the app or run the thing work together in sync, in which the ideal situation is for this network effect to grow and grow and grow and grow. Now, there is many brands out there, many startups out there that are built on the conception of network effects, but something happens throughout that journey and the network effect doesn't happen. Maybe, and there's several reasons for that. So one reason is maybe maybe one of the sides of that market, because when we're talking about network effect, we're talking about a marketplace. Fiverr is another great example. So a reason for a network effect not to work is maybe if in one side of those marketplaces, there isn't enough of a value proposition to the person using it. So for example, if someone lives in New York City and he prefers to take a taxi, it's a much better price point than an Uber, or a taxi app is better, which it isn't, but let's say for it is. So they're not going to be using, and this would not be creating the network effect. So a network effect is great in theory, but ideally it really needs to benefit each person in that marketplace, and not only benefit each person in that marketplace, it needs to be the best value add and the best value proposition in each side of that marketplace, which makes it much more difficult. So when you guys, and I'm sure you guys have this conversations internally, when you guys think about Vendict, you guys need to be the best solution for vendors, and you guys need to be the best solution for people who manage the risk or manage the compliance. So how do you make sure you win both of these worlds?
Yeah, so this is a great analysis and explanation. And there were other companies in this industry that try to do this network effect, and this is exactly why they failed. They either didn't have good enough solution for the buyers, technology buyers, or for the technology sellers. By leveraging AI, generative AI and LLMs, we have enough of technology advantage and enough on innovation advantage to be able to win both sides. Because for technology sellers, the ability to automatically respond to security questionnaires and to prepare to audits much faster, this is like a game changer. This is the number one need. The most important thing for companies is to be able to respond to those questionnaires faster and to go through audits much faster, because they don't care much about compliance, right? In most cases, like smaller companies, they have other
obligations. They need to prove themselves. They want to run fast. They don't have the time to.
Yeah, they have more substantial risk than just like running out of money, for example. So not necessarily if like this is a 200 employees startup providing solution for a large bank, they're probably more risk tolerant than the bank. What they care about is to do it fast, but also to do it professionally so they don't lose the deal. And this is exactly what we give in those companies, and we do it 10x better. Because with AI, we understand the meaning of the question, we understand the meaning of the data that they already have. We build the knowledge base instantly. So we have everything we need to provide the 10x experience. And by the way, 90% of our customers were using other tools before they migrated to Vendict. It's not just that we met them first. They already use tools.
Technology tools? Like technology? Okay.
Yeah. But the technology...
It was more like service-based, or was it an actual technology that tried to...
Both.
Okay.
Both. In most cases, technology-based solution, but it was like chatbot vs ChatGPT. Okay, once you see ChatGPT, you just throw away your chatbot, right?
Right.
You know that this technology is absolute. So this is exactly what we see. Whenever we get to a company that already use a tool, we know that we have a much better chance to win than a company that don't use a tool, because we know that they have the need. The need is so significant that they paid for a crappy tool, and now it's an easy win. So this is for the technology seller. For the technology buyer, again, this is the first time it is solvable. So it's also like 10x better solution. Just an anecdote. I spoke with someone about the differences between technology buyer pain and technology seller. Of course, in many cases, the same company is both technology buyer and technology seller. So last week I spoke with a company that have both problems as the technology buyer and the technology seller. And he told me, you know, for technology buyer, I know that everyone has this problem and no one solved it. So I don't care about it. Let's solve it first. I want to solve the technology seller problem. I want to save my time. And of course, this is because, as I said, this is the kind of company that is not really risk. They are more risk tolerant than the larger companies. So we know we will start with the larger company and then we will go to the smaller one. But anyway, yeah, so the reason that we can do it this way and can be 10x better in both areas, that is, at the end, it's like different problem, is because of the generative AI and the AI LLMs, and not only the open AI, but the technology itself, the technology of AI, training models, building technology that is not available, and that the other companies in the field, they don't have the right culture, the right team to use this technology properly. So the only reason that we can provide 10x better solution for both ends is because of this AI boom. If it weren't like 10x stronger AI today than it was 5 years ago, we couldn't do it.
You know, I had a conversation recently with one of my friends, and we talked about how it seems that Gen AI has basically made its mark on many things, on many different professions, like writing, creating images, all those kind of stuff. And we said, like, these things are fun to write, to illustrate. This is things that I don't know if most humans, but the humans who do that, I like writing. I love writing, you know? I'm sure someone who likes to paint loves painting. And now there's this Gen AI that's, you know, taking its job away. And we said, why can Gen AI be used only for the boring, mundane, stupid tasks? And this is where you guys come along, right? Where it's basically, it's not the flashy AI. It's not the fleshy, oh, this AI will create clips out of this podcast for you, etc. It's more about, this AI is going to solve a problem that is really messing up a lot of people's workflows. And this is something that might not get, you know, you guys do get very sexy headlines, may I say, but this might not be, you know, the same as saying ChatGPT just launched, you know, a tool that lets you organize your productivity schedule, etc. But it makes a big difference. When you got into this, I'm sure you're very passionate about it personally, but did you ever have this notion where, wait, this is not like a flashy idea or something like that? Did that play a part, or did you just say, or are you like super passionate about it and you're saying, well, geez, Omri, I feel like this is very flashy, etc.?
Yes. There are not a lot of people that think that this is like super flashy, but everyone in the field take it seriously because it's like they know it's important. Okay, but it's it's responding to, especially on the technology seller side, responding to security questionnaire. I never met anyone that say yes, I love doing that, really, and I spoke with thousands. And yeah, so I think that part of the appeal for me to work on that was that in my background, even before the AI, I was a technology leader. Like I manage an software organization of more than 100 employees, and I always looked for places in which people can be more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Not only to save time, but also to make my employees happier and to have lower attrition.
Yeah, and reduce friction.
Yeah, like one of the things I brag about when I asked about my role as a software organization manager is that there was a year in which I started the year with 50 employees, and all of those 50 employees end the year inside the same company. So for me, it was like, this is what I take pride on, because it's difficult, first of all. People like to move jobs.
Especially nowadays.
Yeah, but also then.
Okay.
Keeping a software employee, a software engineer was never easy task.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the more important things that I think software managers are not always aware of is that, and also CISOs, that their employees, they want them to feel that they care about them. It's not just about what did you do this weekend, etc., but also about the day-to-day. They want to see that their manager help them develop and get better, get more professional. And when you give an employee to do like repetitive tasks, that they don't feel that it add value to them, to their career, they don't like it.
They despise you.
Yeah.
They might not say that, but deep inside they're starting to feel like, wow, I'm doing this mundane task again and again. If this is such a smart company, why aren't they bringing in a better solution for how to do this, right?
Especially now when those tools exist. Another anecdote from a meeting I had.
I love your anecdotes.
Yeah. Earlier this year. And it was when we ran a POC with one of our customers about the technology seller POC, automatically responding to questionnaire. And they said that they are now interviewing for a GRC, GRC analyst, and they asked whether they use Vendict in order to automatically respond to questionnaires. Because once those employees knew that there is a tool for that, they didn't agree to get to a workplace that
doesn't use Vendict.
Yeah, that expect them to do the manual work that they know that a tool can already do.
That is amazing. That's exactly what you're looking for, where an employee comes in and they say, do they have Vendict integrated? You know?
Yeah.
You know, in our worlds, in the worlds of media, PR, marketing, is we would see that when someone like, let's say a company, one of our clients would want to hire like a CMO or like a head of marketing, etc., whatever. And the guy would ask, what tools and softwares are you guys using? HubSpot? Are you guys using this? So like having Vendict as that kind of flagship product to use, that means a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yes. Yeah, so this is probably why I remember that. Yeah.
So, in terms of being an entrepreneur, it's not easy. It's probably not easy mentally, right? And obviously, there's the whole technical and practical aspects that go into this, recruiting, fundraising, the most important thing, bringing in customers, chasing customers, follow-upping, referrals, being very aggressive in that whole game. In terms of the pressures and the mental aspect of that, as an entrepreneur, how do you deal with all that stress? Do you feel that stress? I know some people just are kind of immune to that kind of stress. How would you say you handle and manage that?
Yeah, I'm not immune. Yeah, I think that for me it's might be even more challenging than for others because I worked in a large enterprise most of my career and like started this is my first startup and I started at the age of 40, above 40.
You look younger.
Thank you. So yeah, it's not easy. It's different. It's difficult to explain why it's not easy, but I mean, I think that we as a startup, things went pretty well, pretty easy. I wouldn't say easy, but easier than 95% of the startups. Because, for example, when we raised the first money, we already have customers. And when we got, for example, for fundraising, we were always in a good position. And so we were able to...
Did you guys bootstrap early on then? Was that like a bootstrap kind of move? What was it?
Kind of. But before, we used... Me and my co-founder are both AI, we know AI, we know how it works, so we could develop the product, just the two of us.
That's like the classic startup story. You sat together in the basement.
Yeah.
Or on the pool like or something, I don't know.
Something like that, yes. And again, it's because the AI and the capabilities of AI that enabled us to bring value in few months of work, enough value to get to a customer like SimilarWeb. That was one of our first customers. So, but anyway, it's still difficult. It's never easy having the responsibility on yourself. And this is another type of responsibility as a software manager, even when the organization was very large. I was a software person managing other software people. So it was like, I knew how they think. And we had some shared ground to speak about. But when you manage salespeople or marketing or GRC, every one of them have a different mentality and expect you to do things differently. And when you need to manage the relationship, of course, with the customers and with your vendors and your new investors, existing investors, like this is much more difficult. And also at the end, this is startup, right? There is not guarantee that it will exist. And I have a lot of responsibility for everyone I've hired, and for the investors that invested money, and for my customers that invest their time.
And for yourself, that you're taking the time to do this, and you could have done other things, right?
Right. There is also like a personal price of family time.
Right.
And this is not something I take easily. It's like... So, yeah, it's...
So how do you manage that stress? Is there certain things that you do? Do you like meditate? Do you write? Is there anything specific that you do? Or do you just listen to music? I don't know. Really. Everybody does something, everybody does something.
So I try to combine.
Okay.
Like, for example, I try to combine sport time with family time or with friend times. So that I can do both in the same time, like riding the bicycle with my kids. So this is one of the things I try to do to be able to get enough family time and enough sport in the little time free time that I have. But yeah, I don't have like a very good tip on that end. But I think at the end, as long as you enjoy that, it's manageable.
Let's talk about the other stressors. And you mentioned it briefly. The stress from the people who are on your board, right? If it's investors, people who own a share of the company, it's not easy, man. You know, I've seen those boards. I've been in those meetings. It's not easy. You've got some investors who are very, every VC, every investor wants to think that he's the guy who brings in all the value. He's the know-it-all. He made exits. He made deals, etc. But not a lot of them have actual entrepreneurial background where they, and especially in the specific domains, because listen, they manage a portfolio, etc. By the way, and I tell this to my audience a lot, we started investing. I started investing as well. And my philosophy is, I'm only going to help out with business models and PR. Those are the two things that are strengths of mine and my company. I'm not going to act like I know anything about recruiting or about, anything else that, some of this of like work culture. I did an interview today. Someone interviewed me for their podcast and they talked about work culture, and I told them, listen, like if you talk to my employees, I don't think they're going to say that we have like, this work culture. It's like, we have our way of working. It's very intensive, very aggressive. I don't think like all my employees like me. I'm sure there's some employees that might say that they would say that I'm a decent, that I'm very ethical and stuff, but they might say that, they can talk about my character. And my point here is that in the boardroom, it's very hectic, especially when you see bubbles bursting, which happened recently, where and sometimes those investors come to a board meeting, and sometimes you're not even mad about what's going on in Vendict. They're mad about something else that happened in one of their 30 companies that they oversee, right? How do you manage that how do you manage that with one, not being an asshole? Obviously, you're not an asshole. I know you personally, so I know you don't have that problem. But the second thing of this, how do you manage that without just like agreeing with everybody? Because sometimes you also need to be unagreeable if you believe something that maybe a certain investor doesn't, or at the end of the day, you're the CEO. You lead the ship.
Okay, so first of all, I think we are lucky in the sense of having experienced enough investors not to think that, so they don't think that they can give you the answers. Mm-hmm. They can suggest, but they know, they realize that they don't, like in this time they are spending with the company, they will not always be able to give you the answers. Mm-hmm. However, they do come up with the questions and the criticism, right? Even at the beginning, I didn't understand it because I knew that we are doing better than 90% of their companies. Mm-hmm. So I didn't. Why are they criticizing me? Doing much better than the others. But then you need to understand that, like, VCs, their business model is that if they invest in 50 companies, only one company of those 50 or two will actually bring them money, but they will bring them enough money to cover for everyone. So being on the 90 percentile is not necessarily enough. They will just need to make sure that you make the most. So they will always find the questions. But at the end, it's important. Like in the same moment, you sometimes
you feel you get that critic, you feel that, right? You're like,
Yeah. But at the end, you need to understand that this is important. And it's not this is one of the reasons why it's not easy to be an
entrepreneur.
Yeah, but it's important. You cannot, like, most discussion you will have with the employees, with customers, it will typically be positive. And you sometimes need, like, this mirror of, okay, this is what you are not doing right. And in my case, like, in many cases, I'm like, as a person, I'm, as you said, I'm not an asshole. But so sometimes you do need to be a little bit of an asshole, and I don't have it in me. So they are, like, in some cases, they are pushing me to be more demanding, more to make sure that everyone in the company are passionate enough and have the sense of urgency. And because at the end, it's like no one like to be pushed, but if I will not push like anyone, it will be the worst, right? Because the company will not succeed. So my job, and this is at the end what I'm expected, like, employees understand that the role of the CEO is to make sure that everyone do their part. And people don't want to, if someone is not doing their part, and the other employees see that, and they see that the management is not taking care of that, they feel that, at the end, they feel something wrong. Okay, they feel that something is not working as it should work. And this is, I think, for me, this is the most difficult part in being a CEO. The need to, like, making sure that everyone do their part, and that, sometimes to ask the difficult questions. So in that aspect, I think that it's important to also think, this is also why I understand the VCs, the investors, better, because I know that they also feel that this is their work, to ask the difficult question and to come with negative view. Like,
you think their work, you think they need to also search for answers as VCs, or do you think that's not their job at all?
No, this is not their job.
Okay.
Also, it's not my job to get to the marketing team and telling them, you need to do this and that.
Right.
I'm not a marketing person, but I should tell them, okay, I don't think this is right. I think this is a problem because of this and that. Maybe, and maybe also I can speak about the process. Okay, why did you get to this decision? Okay, but my role is to ask the question and to understand when I hear bullshit. But whenever I try to guide people in, like, disciplines I'm not expert in, I can see I can see the feedback loop pretty fast. I'm just making things worse.
That's funny. Okay, so we're going to wrap up soon. What's next for Vendict? Wait, how much did you guys raise until now?
Almost 10 million.
Almost 10 million.
And yeah, we
you guys already have very prominent clients. You want to mention some names? If you're allowed to.
I'm
the
not
ones
sure,
that are on the
I'm
website.
not sure.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
You can check their website and you see the clients.
Yeah.
What's next in terms of the product? What can you tell us?
I can say that we have almost 70 customers.
Very high profile names. You can visit their website. It's all there.
Yeah.
Some of them are there, yes.
Yes. We have large customers, small customers, all kinds. And the next step now is to... So the seller side, it's like already known, the seller side's product for the technology sellers. The buyer side, the third-party risk management, is still on the first stages. So our goal right now is to keep improving that, getting more customers, and then have this effect, this network effect of helping the vendors, for example, technology vendors, because it will be easier for them to pass the assessment.
Right.
Because so this is the goal. The goal is to run this virality network effect.
Also, mention to the audience, there's a big San Francisco Examiner article that went live today, actually, that you should check out, that really talks about your story, really talks about it in great detail, and really also talks about how this is real AI. Like, this is a real AI solution compared to other things that we're looking in the market, which are not strictly an AI solution, but are marketed as one, which I don't have a problem with, but I do think that it's kind of ridiculous. So maybe I do think there's a problem with it. I don't know. But anyways, Udi Cohen, thank you so much, man, for taking the time. It's been delightful to talk to you. I'm really excited about Vendict and about what you guys are doing. You guys are doing amazing work, grabbing amazing headlines, and getting amazing customers, which is that's the most important thing. And, you know, people can go in and check Vendict.com. You guys can go follow them, Udi, on LinkedIn, follow the company on LinkedIn. And yes, man, thanks a lot. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Awesome.